Hello, my name is Christy Miller, and my topic is the role of religion in America, the founders' intent. I wanted to look into this topic because of the ongoing debate that we have in this nation on it. And so I decided to look first at the first two colonies established, Jamestown and the Massachusetts Bay Colony, which enveloped Plymouth. And so I looked at original documents. I looked at documents for the establishment of those colonies, as well as the early years of those colonies. I looked at documents such as the Mayflower Compact, the reasons for the plantation of New England, the Charter of Massachusetts Bay, the Massachusetts Body of Liberties. I looked at a model of Christianity. For Jamestown, I looked at instructions to the Virginia colony. I looked at Virginia's first charter, and I looked at the 1619 laws of the General Assembly in Virginia, which were established right after martial law was lifted. And what I found in all of these documents was that religion and government were intricately interwoven. Religion was a prominent reason for the establishment and continuance of the colonies. They were to propagate the gospel, but it also religion also permeated their government. Laws dealt with religious practices, and there was a acknowledgement that God's blessings were needed to succeed. I wasn't able to look at all 13 colonies, original documents for their establishment, but I did want to look at the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, since it's considered to be the first written constitution in America. And in that document, I found that God was not only acknowledged, but he was also credited with the reason government was being established anyway, that they were establishing a government to be obedient to God. So then I went on and I looked at the founders. There's 150 years between the establishment of the first two colonies and the actual founding of the United States. A lot of things happened during that time. There's the Enlightenment, there's the Great Awakening, there's many dissenter groups that are formed. There's immigration, a population explosion. So many different things went on in that 150 years. So then I looked at the founders to see how things may have changed. And what I looked at there, when I started looking into that, I found that Daniel Dryback asserts that the Bible, more than all of the Enlightenment writers combined, was referred to by the founders. Specifically, he says Micah 6:8 is the most often referred to passage, but they use many other passages. Sometimes they quote it directly, sometimes they allude to or make reference to stories or events or just biblical language. But the Bible is referred to more than all the Enlightenment writers combined. And so you can see some examples of this with George Washington's letter to the Hebrew congregation at Newport, Rhode Island in 1790. Patrick Henry's Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death speech is an excellent example of this, where he not only refers to the Bible but uses the same tone, the same speaking style as the King James Version of the Bible. The Declaration of Independence refers to nature's God or nature's creator. And even Thomas Jefferson in his second inaugural address does this when he refers to Americans or compares Americans to Israelites and admonishes the Americans to seek God's will and blessings. We also see in the Northwest Ordinance that a statement that says, because religion and knowledge are necessary for good government, schools will be encouraged in the territories. So certainly there still is a close partnership or interwovenness of religion and government at the time. So I needed to look at the wall of separation metaphor, because it is such a prominent part of this argument. And Derek Davis pointed out that Thomas Jefferson uses this metaphor in his correspondence with the Danbury Baptist Association. He also points out that Jefferson is integral in creating the legislation in Virginia that brings complete freedom of religion to that state, and that Jefferson actually wanted this letter to be published so that people would see what he thought the First Amendment actually meant. But as you look at the letter and Jefferson's writings, Jolene Whitten, who actually looks at 4 of the founding fathers, says that everything that she finds written about freedom of religion refers to the individual's freedom being protected. And so was the protection meant to only be the government not being able to interfere with the individual's practice of religion? Or was this separation supposed to mean that religion could not influence government? So I still didn't know what the founders' intent was, so I had to continue to look. I looked at The Founding Fathers and the Place of Religion in America, which is a book by Frank Lambert. And he suggested that the question for the founders was not what role religion would play in the government, but what place it would have in the nation. And so I started looking into that, and what I found was that Americans believed that, including the founders, that God's hand was on the nation, that it was at work in the nation, and it was the duty of the nation to recognize the blessings of God. They also believed that the Bible told them how to have a successful nation. That's where Micah 6:8 comes in so often. And they believed that God intervened in human affairs and was involved in national concerns. This can be seen in many of their public and private writings. A few are George Washington's circular letter when he thought that he was leaving public work at the end of the Revolution. His farewell address at the end of the presidency actually says that people who try to inhibit religion in the public life can't be called patriots. You also see it in James Madison alludes to this or refers to this in Federalist Papers number 37 and 51. And many other founders reflect these beliefs, and this belief that without good religion, there can be no good government. The one that stood out to me the most was Benjamin Franklin's speech in the Constitutional Convention, where he chastises the delegates for not seeking God's assistance, and he says that God governs in the affairs of men. He makes numerous biblical references. I encourage you to read that. So what I found was that religion had exerted an enormous influence on American society throughout the establishment of the colonies through the founding era, and that the founding fathers believed good religion was imperative for good government, but that it had to rest in the hands of the people, much like government had to rest in the hands of the people. So it would be up to the people to maintain good religion so that they could then have good morality and choose good moral leaders.